My mom banned me from her anniversary party. You don't belong in a nice room full of family. I spent the night alone at a motel off the highway. At 12:22 a.m., my sister started blowing up my phone. What did you send, Dad? He opened the email right at the table and dropped his glass. Before we get into this one, if you've been watching our videos but haven't hit subscribe yet, now's a great time to do it. It literally takes 2 seconds, and honestly, it makes a bigger difference than you'd think. We put a lot of work into these stories, and knowing you're locked in keeps us going. So yeah, tap that button, join the family, and let's keep this thing growing. Now let's jump into today's story. The ice machine hummed through the wall every 40 seconds. I'd been counting. I was lying on the bed, fully dressed, shoes still on, staring at a water stain on the ceiling that looked like the state of Texas. The TV was bolted to the wall, but the remote didn't work. The comforter was thin enough to read through. Room 14, exit 37 off the highway. $89 a night. My phone was on the nightstand, face up, screen dark. It had been dark for 4 hours. At 12:22 a.m., it lit up. Claire's name. I didn't move. It rang 5 times and went to voicemail. Then it lit up again. Claire. I let it ring. Then a text came through. Then 3 more. What did you send, Dad? He opened it at the table. Mom is trying to grab his phone. What the hell did you write, Garrett? I picked up the phone, read the texts, set it back down, looked at the ceiling again. The email I'd scheduled 3 days ago, sitting in my drafts folder since Wednesday night, had just delivered itself to every member of my family at 12:15 a.m. 7 minutes for chaos to reach a phone. Faster than I expected. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back to Wednesday, the day my mother told me I don't belong. I drove 40 minutes to my parents' house to drop off a check. My mother had called the week before about the anniversary party. 30 years of marriage. She wanted a caterer. A good one. Bella Vista. The kind of place that does white tablecloths and cloth napkins and tiny appetizers on silver trays. The quote was $3,800. You know how these things add up, Garrett. Your father and I are a little short this month. I didn't ask questions. I wrote the check. That's what I do. That's what I've always done. I pulled into the driveway on Wednesday afternoon, walked through the side door into the kitchen. Now, my mother was at the table with a seating chart spread out in front of her. Cream-colored cardstock, 8 tables drawn in pencil, names written in careful script next to each one. I handed her the envelope with the check inside. She took it, opened it, looked at the number, smiled. Thank you, sweetheart. This is going to make the evening perfect. I glanced at the seating chart while she tucked the check into her purse. I could see table 1 near the top. Her name. Richard's name. Claire's name. Claire's husband, Mark. Uncle Ray. Aunt Helen. I scanned the other tables. Table 2. Table 3. I kept scanning. Mom, where am I sitting? She didn't look up right away. She adjusted one of the names on the chart with her pen like she hadn't heard me. Then she set the pen down. Garrett, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. The kitchen got quieter. The refrigerator hummed. The clock on the wall ticked. It's a formal evening. 40 guests. I've spent 6 weeks putting this together, and I just think it would be better for everyone if you sat this one out. Sat this one out. You don't belong in a nice room full of family. Not like that. You understand? I stood there. The check was in her purse. The $3,800 was already hers. What do you mean I don't belong? It's not personal, Garrett. It's just the dynamic. When you're there, things get complicated. People have to explain things. The seating gets awkward. It's easier for everyone. Easier for who? For the evening, for the flow. Claire's helping me organize everything. And she agrees. Claire agrees that I shouldn't come. She didn't put it that way. She just said it might be smoother without... Look, it's a formal event. 40 people. I can't have any loose threads. She called me a loose thread. In the same kitchen where I signed the check that was paying for the thread count on her tablecloths. I looked at the seating chart. 40 names, 6 weeks of planning. My name wasn't on a single table. Not crossed out, not erased, never written. The exclusion wasn't a decision she made that afternoon. It was an architecture she'd been building for 6 weeks, and my check was the last material she needed to complete it. I understand, I said. I walked out through the same door I came in, got in my truck, sat in the driveway for a minute. Then I drove home. The check cleared on Thursday. I saw it in my banking app. $3,800 to Bella Vista Catering. Memo. Mitchell anniversary dinner. My money. Her party. My name nowhere in the room. This wasn't the first time. That's what people need to understand. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a system. 2 years ago, Beverly called me about Claire's bridal shower. Her voice was warm. The same warm voice she used on Wednesday. Garrett, I need a favor. Claire's bridal shower venue wants $1,200 up front. It covers the room, the flowers, the cake, everything. Your father and I can't swing it right now. You know how weddings are. I'll send it tomorrow. You're such a good brother. Claire is so lucky to have you. I sent the check. The shower happened. Claire posted photos, flowers everywhere, a 3-tier cake. The venue looked beautiful. My check looked like a room full of happy women celebrating my sister. 3 weeks later, the rehearsal dinner happened. I heard about it from a cousin the next day. 20 people at a restaurant downtown. Claire, Mark, the wedding party, the parents, the close family. I wasn't there. Beverly didn't call. Claire didn't mention it. The $1,200 check was cashed and the door was closed, and this was 2 years before the anniversary party, which means the system was already running long before I noticed it. Last year, I covered my parents' property tax. $2,100 each year, 2 years running. $4,200 total. The first Thanksgiving, I called Beverly the week before to ask what time dinner was. Oh, honey, I should have mentioned. We're keeping it small this year. The house is just too full with Claire's family and Mitchell's friends. You understand. I understood. I spent Thanksgiving eating Chinese food at a counter in my apartment, while the house my money kept warm hosted a dinner I wasn't seated at. The second year, she didn't even call. I found out Thanksgiving had happened from an Instagram post. Claire's photo. The table set for 14. Turkey. Candles. Everybody there. My property tax check had cleared 3 weeks earlier. $2,100 to keep the house. $0 to keep a seat. Last Christmas, the family took a group photo in the living room. I was there. I was in the kitchen loading the dishwasher because somebody had to and nobody else was going to. By the time I came out, the photo was taken. Everyone was back in their seats. The photo was framed and hanging in the hallway by New Year's. 23 people smiling. I was 10 feet away washing plates. I found out later from Aunt Helen that Beverly started the guest list 6 weeks before the party. She'd made 3 drafts. Aunt Helen had seen an early version because Beverly asked her to review the seating arrangement. 3 drafts, 6 weeks. 40 names refined over a month and a half. My name wasn't on any version. Draft 1, no Garrett. Draft 2, no Garrett. Draft 3, no Garrett. The exclusion wasn't a last-minute decision. It was a first draft decision that survived every revision. Beverly didn't forget me. Beverly arranged around me. She timed the photo for when I was in the other room. She planned the guest list to exclude me after the checks cleared. She managed my absence the way a set designer manages a prop, useful for construction, invisible in the final shot. Thursday at work, Dan noticed something was off. Dawn sits 2 desks over. We eat lunch together most days. He's the kind of guy who doesn't ask personal questions unless your face is already answering them. You good? Yeah. You don't look good, I told him. Not everything, just the basics. Wrote a check for my mom's party, got told I don't belong. Dan put his sandwich down. Wait, you paid for the party? The catering. And she told you not to come? She said I don't belong in a nice room full of family. Dan stared at me for a long time. You paid for the room and she told you that you don't belong in it? Yeah. That's the most messed up thing I've ever heard, Garrett. And I've heard a lot. He didn't tell me what to do, he didn't give advice. He just sat with the information for a minute and then said, "Don't let that slide, man. Whatever you do, don't let that slide." I didn't. Thursday night, I drove back to my parents' house, not to talk, to see something. Beverly and Richard were out. The house was unlocked because it always is. I went to the dining room where Beverly had been working on the party plans. The seating chart was still on the table. I looked at it more carefully this time, Beverly's handwriting for the table assignments. But the individual place cards, the small folded cards that go at each setting, were in a different hand. Claire's. I recognized it. The same loopy C's. The same tall L's. Claire had written 40 place cards by hand, 40 names, each one carefully printed in blue ink. I went through every card. Table 1 through table 8. 40 names. Not one of them was mine. Claire didn't just attend the party I was banned from. She helped build it. Or she sat at this table with a pen and wrote every name except her brother's. 40 times her hand moved across cardstock, and 40 times it didn't write Garrett. She wasn't a bystander. She was a co-architect. I put the cards back exactly where I found them. Drove home. Before I opened the laptop, I tried one thing. I called my father. It rang 4 times. He picked up. "Hey, Dad." "Garrett, how are you, son?" "I'm good. Listen, Mom told me I'm not invited to the party Saturday." Silence. The kind where someone is choosing their next word very carefully. "She mentioned something about that. I think she's just stressed about the planning. She said I don't belong in a nice room full of family." Another silence. Longer. "I'm sure she didn't mean it like that." "How did she mean it, Dad?" "You know how your mother is. She gets focused on the details and sometimes things come out wrong. I'll talk to her." "Will you?" "I'll try." He wouldn't try. He never tried. Richard's version of trying was bringing it up once, getting shut down by Beverly, and then giving a toast about family unity at the dinner his excluded son funded. I'd watched this exact pattern run for years. Raise the concern, accept the dismissal, perform the result. "Thanks, Dad." "Garrett, listen, don't do anything rash, okay? Let me handle your mother." "You've been handling her for 30 years, Dad. How's that going?" He paused. I could hear the television in the background. A game on. The sound of a man sitting in a comfortable chair in a house my property tax money kept, watching a screen while his wife planned a party that excluded his son. "That's not fair," he said quietly. "No, it's not." I hung up, sat at my kitchen table, opened my laptop. I started typing at 11 p.m. on Thursday. The email wasn't a letter. It wasn't a plea. It wasn't an accusation. It was a ledger, 2 columns. Left side, payment. Right side, what happened after. $1,200, Claire's bridal shower venue and flowers. Not invited to rehearsal dinner. $2,100. Property tax, year 1. Not invited to Thanksgiving. $2,100. Property tax, year 2. Not invited to Thanksgiving. $3,800. Anniversary party catering. Told, "You don't belong in a nice room full of family." I kept going, smaller items. The $400 I spent fixing the porch railing last spring. The $600 for their furnace repair in January. Holiday flights I bought for myself to visit, because the family always gathered at Claire's house 4 hours away and I was the one who had to travel. Every dollar. In every corresponding silence. The left column grew. The right column repeated the same pattern. Garrett pays. Garrett disappears. Below the ledger, I wrote 1 paragraph. Short. No emotion, just the facts of this specific week. On Wednesday, I delivered a $3,800 check for the catering at your anniversary party. Mom took the check and told me I don't belong in a nice room full of family. The guest list has 40 names. Mine isn't one of them. Claire wrote the place cards by hand. 40 cards. 40 names. None of them mine. The party was planned for 6 weeks. 3 drafts of the guest list were made. I wasn't on any of them. My money was welcome. I was not. I read it back. It sounded like a report. Good. That's what it was. Then the closing line. I typed it 3 different ways, deleted 2. The third one stayed. 1 sentence. Clean. On no anger. Just the words my mother gave me on Wednesday, returned to her with the full weight of the ledger above them. You told me I don't belong in a nice room full of family. You were right. I don't belong in a room where my money is welcome and I'm not. I looked at that sentence for a long time. It didn't sound like revenge. It sounded like an invoice that had finally been sent to the correct address. I didn't click send. I clicked schedule send. Set the time. 12:15 a.m. Saturday night. After the toasts, after the photos, after the performance. I wanted them to have their perfect evening first. Every champagne glass raised. Every speech about family delivered. Every photo taken. Then I wanted the truth to arrive while the room was still warm. In the to field, I didn't type just Richard's email. I typed every address I had. Richard, Beverly, Claire, Uncle Ray, Aunt Helen, cousins, family friends who'd given me their email over the years. 14 addresses. Every person who would be at that party, eating food I paid for, sitting in a room I wasn't allowed in, would receive the same document at the same time. I closed the laptop. The email sat in the scheduled folder like a document in a filing cabinet, waiting for its appointment. Saturday evening. I was in my apartment getting ready. Not for the party, for the motel. I'd booked it that morning. Exit 37, $89. My phone buzzed at 8:14 p.m. Claire. A photo. Group shot from the party. 40 people arranged around a decorated table, white tablecloths, candles, silver trays of food from Bella Vista. My parents at the center, Richard in a dark suit, Beverly in a cream dress. Claire next to them, smiling wide. Everyone smiling. The caption. Wish you were here. I looked at the photo for a long time. 40 people. My catering on every plate. My money in every napkin fold and every appetizer on those silver trays. And in the center, the woman who told me I don't belong, wearing a cream dress at a party I paid for. Wish you were here. She didn't wish I was there. She helped make sure I wasn't. She wrote the place cards. She knew the seating chart. She watched my name not appear on 40 pieces of cardstock and then texted me like she was a bystander who had nothing to do with it. My thumb hovered over the email app. I could send it now. Right now. While they were laughing. While the champagne was flowing. While the photo was still being shared. I put the phone down. 12:15, not a minute sooner. The timer was the discipline. I left my apartment at 7:45. The party was 30 miles south. The motel was 20 minutes north. I drove in the opposite direction. I passed the exit from my parents' neighborhood. Didn't take it, kept driving. The highway was mostly empty, trucks heading north, a few cars. The radio was off. Exit 37. The motel sign glowed orange against a dark sky. I pulled in, parked, checked in at the front desk. A woman with reading glasses handed me a key card without looking up from her book. The front desk woman looked up for the first time when I handed her my card. Just the one night? Just one? Checkout's at 11. Ice machine is at the end of the hall. Vending machine is downstairs, but it only takes exact change. Thanks. She handed me the key card. Room 14, second floor. I walked up the exterior staircase. On the metal steps rang under my shoes. I could smell the highway from the balcony, diesel and asphalt and distance. I dropped my bag on the chair, sat on the bed. The comforter was thin. The TV remote was dead. The ice machine started its cycle through the wall. I took off my jacket but kept my shoes on. Lay back on the bed, stared at the ceiling. 30 miles south, 40 people were eating food I paid for at a party I wasn't invited to. Richard was probably giving his toast right about now. 30 years of building this family. Glasses raised. Applause. A speech about unity in a room that was deliberately missing one person. I checked the clock on my phone. 8:52 p.m. 3 hours and 23 minutes until the email sent. I put the phone face up on the nightstand. Screen dark. And I waited. The hours moved slow. I didn't sleep. I wasn't tired. I was somewhere past tired, in the place where your body is still and your mind is running numbers. At 9:30, I thought about every Thanksgiving I wasn't invited to while my money kept the house warm. At 10:15, I thought about the Christmas photo. 23 people smiling, me in the kitchen, nobody calling my name. At 10:45, I thought about Claire, sitting at that table, writing place cards, 40 names in blue ink. Each one somebody's evening, each one somebody's seat. And the 41st name, the one she didn't write, was the person who paid for the ink, the cards, the table, and the room they were sitting in. At 11 o'clock, I got off the bed, walked to the window. The parking lot was mostly empty. 3 cars and a truck. The highway beyond the lot was a steady line of headlights going somewhere else. I stood there for a while. 30 miles south, the party was probably at the toast stage. Richard standing up, glass raised, the words he always uses: family, commitment, love. 30 years. The room applauding a speech about togetherness, delivered by a man who didn't call his son back. I wondered what the food looked like. Bella Vista's signature was the presentation. White plates, garnish on the edge, small portions arranged like architecture. $3,800 worth of food that I would never see, arranged on tables at a party I would never attend, for people who would never know who paid for it, unless they checked their email at 12:15. I went back to the bed. At 11:30, my phone buzzed. Not Claire, not Beverly, a text from Dan. "Hey man, thinking about you tonight. You good?" I typed back, "Yeah, thanks," or Dan. A coworker who sits 2 desks away checked on me. My own mother didn't. The math on that was simple enough that even the ceiling stain could understand it. At midnight, I sat up, checked the email app. Scheduled, 12:15 a.m. Still queued, still waiting. 15 minutes. I opened Claire's text again. The group photo from the party. Zoomed in on the background. On the table behind my parents, I could see the silver trays. Bella Vista's signature presentation. White plates. Garnish on the edge. The food I paid for, arranged on tables I couldn't sit at. Photographed by a family that wrote my check into their budget and my name out of their guest list. I closed the photo. Opened the email app. Scheduled. 12:15 a.m. 12 minutes, 12:15. The email left my outbox. I didn't feel it go. There was no sound, no notification. The phone just showed sent, where scheduled used to be, and the message traveled across whatever invisible lines connect a motel room off the highway to a party venue 30 miles south, where 40 people were finishing dessert and 14 of them were about to receive the same document at the same time. I lay back down. Shoes still on, ceiling still there, ice machine still humming. 7 minutes. At 12:22, my phone lit up. Claire. This time I knew what it was. This time the texts made sense. "What did you send, Dad?" He opened it at the table. "Mom is trying to grab his phone." "What the hell did you write, Garrett?" The same texts from the beginning. But now they carried the weight of everything between Wednesday and Saturday. The check, the ban, the seating chart, the place cards, the pattern, the ledger, the drive, the motel. Off the weight, I picked up the phone, read them slowly, set it down. Later, I got the full picture. Partly from Claire, partly from a cousin who was there and texted me afterward. Richard was at the head of the table. Dessert plates half finished. The toasts were done. The photos were taken. Beverly was talking to Aunt Helen about a cruise she wanted to take in the spring. The evening was winding down in that comfortable way anniversary parties do, when everything has gone according to plan. Richard's phone buzzed on the table. He picked it up casually. Opened his email the way you do when you're relaxed and not expecting anything. He read the first 3 lines. His hand stopped moving. The champagne glass was in his right hand, half full. His left hand held the phone. The glass tilted slowly like he forgot he was holding it, or champagne spilled over the rim, ran down his fingers, dripped onto the white tablecloth. Then the glass slipped out of his hand entirely. It hit the table, bounced once, rolled off the edge, and shattered on the floor. The room went quiet. 40 people looking at Richard. He wasn't looking at any of them. He was looking at his phone. Reading, scrolling, reading more. Beverly touched his arm. Richard, what's wrong? He didn't answer. He kept reading. She reached for the phone. He pulled it away. First time in 30 years he'd ever pulled anything away from Beverly. Then Beverly's phone buzzed in her purse. Then Uncle Ray's, then Claire's. One by one, the phones in the room started lighting up. The same email, the same document, the same ledger on every screen. Beverly got to her phone before Uncle Ray finished reading his. She opened the email. Her face changed 3 times in 10 seconds. I wasn't there to see it, but Claire described it later. Confusion first, like she was reading a language she didn't recognize. Then recognition, the moment she saw the dollar amounts and realized what the document was. Then something Claire called the color leaving. Beverly went white, not pale, white. The kind of white that happens when blood decides the face isn't where it needs to be right now. She looked around the room. Guests were checking their phones, whispering. Beverly stood up. She smoothed her dress, put on the hostess face, walked to Uncle Ray's table. Ray, I don't know what that email is about, but Garrett has been going through some things. Please don't take it seriously. Uncle Ray looked at her over his reading glasses. Bev, it says you charged him $3,800 for tonight's dinner. Is that true? It's more complicated than that. It's a yes or no question. Beverly opened her mouth, closed it, moved to the next table where a cousin was reading. The cousin looked up at her with an expression that was polite on the surface and something else underneath. Is everything okay, Beverly? The cousin asked. But the way she asked it made it clear she'd already read enough to know the answer. Claire stood up from her seat. Everyone, please. This is a private family matter. Let's not let one email ruin a beautiful evening. Nobody moved. Nobody put their phone down. Uncle Ray was still reading. Aunt Helen had her hand over her mouth. 2 cousins at table 5 were whispering. The evening Claire was trying to save was the same evening she'd helped build without her brother. And the email on every screen was the receipt for that construction. Claire sat back down. She picked up her champagne glass, realized it was empty, and set it down again. Her hands were shaking. Another cousin was reading with her hand over her mouth. The room filled with a low hum. 40 people reading the same document at the same time. Beverly's curated evening was bleeding out in front of her. Claire called me at 12:31 a.m. I picked up. Garrett, what did you do? I sent an email. Dad dropped his glass. Mom is... I don't even know. Everyone is reading it. Why would you do this tonight? This was their anniversary. And it was my catering check, and my property tax money, and my bridal shower payment. All at events I wasn't allowed to attend. You know that, Claire. You could have just talked to us like an adult instead of doing this. I've been talking for 32 years. Nobody listened. I figured I'd try writing. Silence. You could have at least left me out of it. You wrote the place cards, Claire. What? 40 place cards, blue ink, your handwriting. Every name in the family except mine. You sat at that table and wrote every single one, and you didn't stop. You didn't call me. You didn't ask Mom why my name wasn't there. You just kept writing. She didn't say anything for a long time. That's different. Mom asked me to help with the details. I didn't decide who was invited. You decided not to ask. The line went quiet. I could hear the party sounds in the background, muffled now. Chairs scraping, voices lower than before. The sound of an evening that had stopped being a celebration and started being a crime scene. Mom wants to talk to you, Claire said. She knows my number. She used it when she needed the check. I hung up. Beverly called 4 minutes later. Her voice was tight, controlled. The voice of a woman managing a crisis in real time. Garrett, this is not the time or place for this. You are ruining our anniversary because of a misunderstanding. What's the misunderstanding? I never said you couldn't come. I said it might be better if you sat this one out. That's completely different. You said I don't belong in a nice room full of family. Those were your words. You were holding my check when you said them. That's not... I was stressed about the planning. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. Which part didn't you mean? The part where I don't belong? Or the part where you took my $3,800 and told me to stay home? Nothing for a few seconds. Then Beverly switched tactics. The warmth came back. The management voice. Sweetheart, we can talk about this tomorrow. Just please tell me how to fix this tonight. People are staring at their phones. Uncle Ray is asking me questions I don't want to answer in front of everyone. Then answer them in front of everyone. The email is already on their screens. The information is out. I didn't create the facts, Beverly. I just organized them. She didn't like that. I could hear it in the way she breathed. Nobody calls her Beverly except when they're done being her son. You have no idea what you've done to this family. I know exactly what I've done. I made a list. 2 columns, 11 entries. Left side is every dollar I gave this family. Right side is every door that closed after the check cleared. You tell me which column is longer. The line went dead. She hung up on me. I set the phone on the nightstand. At 1:15 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from my cousin Marcus. We weren't close. Holiday small talk, kind of relationship. His text was short. Garrett, just read your email. I had no idea about any of this. For what it's worth, I always thought it was weird you weren't at the bridal shower dinner. Now I know why. I'm sorry, man. I stared at the text. Marcus noticed. A cousin I barely talked to noticed my absence at an event 2 years ago and thought it was weird. He noticed. Beverly counted on nobody noticing, but people notice more than she thinks. They just don't say anything until someone gives them permission. The email gave permission. I typed back, "Thanks, Marcus. Appreciate it." Richard never called. Not that night, not the next morning, not the next week. The man who stood at the head of a table and gave a toast about 30 years of building this family together had nothing to say when the building inspector showed up with the receipts. His silence was louder than anything Beverly had said on the phone, because Beverly was managing. Richard was absorbing. And the difference between managing and absorbing is the difference between someone who thinks they can fix this and someone who knows they can't. Claire texted me the next day. Dad hasn't said a word since he read it. Mom is saying you exaggerated everything, but Dad checked the bank statements this morning. He looked at them for an hour. An hour. Richard spent an hour reading bank statements he could have read any time in the last 10 years. The information was always there. He just never looked. And now he couldn't stop looking. I checked out of the motel on Sunday morning. The woman at the front desk printed my receipt without looking up from her book. $89. One night, I folded the receipt and put it in my wallet. The same wallet that held nothing now where a $3,800 check used to be. 2 transactions from the same week. One bought a party I wasn't allowed to attend. The other bought a room where I waited for the truth to arrive. I walked to my truck. The parking lot was empty, the highway was quiet. The morning was gray and still. My phone had 26 missed calls and 41 unread texts. I scrolled through the names. Claire. Not Beverly. Claire. Claire. Beverly. Aunt Helen. Claire. Beverly. An unknown number. Uncle Ray. Claire. Not one of them was Richard. The man who read the email, who dropped the glass, who spent an hour checking bank statements, had nothing to say to the son who wrote it. His silence was the loudest response of all. It confirmed everything the email claimed without saying a single word. I started the truck, pulled out of the lot, turned south toward home. Not my parents' house. Home. I got there by 10, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table. The same table where I'd written the email 3 nights ago. The laptop was still there, lid closed. The email was sent. The ledger was on 40 screens. The facts were out. I drank the coffee slowly. The apartment was quiet. No ice machine, no highway noise, just my kitchen, my coffee, my table. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't paying for someone else's room. I was sitting in my own. The motel receipt sat in my wallet next to my driver's license. $89, the cheapest night of my life and the most expensive night of theirs.